I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with multiple Emmy nominee Giancarlo Esposito, the hardest working man in showbiz, with high-profile roles across television and especially on Godfather of Harlem and The Mandalorian. Now, Giancarlo, I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person at the Emmys a couple of years ago. I've interviewed you before. You are one of the nicest people that I've ever met. And yet when you come on screen on some of my favourite TV shows, my heart rate goes up and I prepare myself for things to go very badly for the person who your character is interacting with. So I'd like to know what joys do you get out of playing the bad guy? Because it does look like a lot of fun.
Well, I've certainly had the opportunity to create such a wonderful and in-depth characterization in Gustavo Fring. And that is something that really came out of a vision that Vince had of a man hiding in plain sight. And those words inspired me to really hide in plain sight. What does that really mean? And that means playing against all the stereotypes that may be thought of in playing someone who has the power that Gustavo Fring does. And what reasons does he want that power and where does it come from? And so I thought to create a very human character would be my first step. And then to figure out some of the backdrop and the background of where that character came from. That was a marvelous thing to be able to work on and propose and talk to Vince about and give him more inspiration to continue to create a guy who said very little, but meant so much and had so much power. And you could read so much in his silences. So that's been a wonderful journey. I'm now doing Better Call Saul in the final season, season 6. And I'm looking forward to bringing home the bookend that happened way before Breaking Bad. Mandalorian has also been a wonderful ride in a different world completely, but a guy and a man who controls the chaos. And I like that a lot about Moff Gideon, and that's my new saying. Someone who can control the chaos, whatever that means and however that needs to be handled. He rises to the occasion, he knows what he wants, and he says so. And he's willing to make a deal or a bargain within reason. So that's someone who's slightly reasonable with a lot of power and control over someone else's life. So to play those characters, I love the idea of being able to control the outer chaos, a take control character, because it makes me feel more secure. When someone comes into the room and knows what they're doing, it makes you feel more secure about how the meeting's gonna go. So for me to play these characters, it's in line with that, with whatever insecurity I may have about not putting the right words together for the interview or on the pitch or selling something. That doesn't matter. I don't ever think about that, because if I'm human, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna flub. I'm gonna trip. And, it's just a matter of being responsible for those trips and not trying to play along like I didn't trip. See, that's where we've come to in our world today. We all fake it, and we're not really real with what's happening. I jumped on a Zoom call earlier, right? And it was an important call because we were in the midst of pitching a project. And I was on a few minutes late and they're talking about something I have like LEDs and all these other things. And I went, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm behind. What are you guys talking about? I mean, I was like 30 seconds late to the call. And I said, please just excuse me. Pardon my ignorance. Oh, we're talking about this, that, and the other. You worked on a volume and all that. Oh, of course I did. I'm Mandalorian. And I said, okay, now I know what you're talking about. Do we need to have that? Oh, okay, I'll weigh in on that later. But it's really being human enough to know that I like being in control of the scene, but I'm an actor. I like being in control of how things go because I can predict the outcome. Now, if I can realize that my characters also seem to like that, at least have a similarity, some of them have similarities in the way they go about that. Others already know that they're going to, like Moff Gideon in my brain has played the game to get caught, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know it as an audience. I mean, I don't know that that's going to happen, but for me as an actor to be able to play that is a fantastic thing. That's what's in my head. Like he's already worked out 5 steps down the road. Equally so, other characters I play figure things out ahead of time, which is great, but things get in their way and go wrong.
Yeah.
And so this is what makes us human, how I'm able to navigate those particular instances where things don't go my way. And I think the bad guy, you never know, the guy could explode on you and flip on you in a heartbeat. And so you're never really quite so secure as an audience member, and yet you're excited and can't take your eyes off of that performance.
I'm so glad you said that, because that is such great insight, Giancarlo, because I'm going to try to put this as succinctly as I can. With some of your characters, especially the villainous ones, I feel like I have a Stockholm syndrome, because I feel a connection with them. Like, I get them. I get what I understand they have an outcome, and they're sincere about what they want. They're in control, as you say. Does that make me a bit of a psycho, that I strangely want to relate to a character you're playing who is doing and saying often very bad things?
I don't think so. I mean, I was on the set recently, and I don't share much from set ever. And not to be a spoiler for anyone, but it's a pretty generic story, is that, I was doing, playing Gus in Better Call Saul on a scene. And I realized that my demeanor and one person's demeanor can change the energy of the whole room. If it's sour, if it's angry, if it's uplifting, if it's direct and focused with no feeling, robotic, it can change the whole energy. And so when I really drop down into what I'm doing, my energy changes. Like, I'm not the same guy. I don't want to chit chat and paddywhack and BS and tell stories about my weekend. Well, sorry,
Yeah.
It's just not who I am, because I'm in the world of television playing a character who is perceived to be menacing. But right now, this particular character I'm playing has a lot of trouble, a lot of problems to solve. So, the other day I caught the DP talking to me, and literally I saw this, a person like 5 feet away from me. And I finally clicked in and went, oh, I'm 100 miles away. I don't even know what you said. Tell me later. And that really helped me to realize, okay, then people start treating me differently. When I drop into Gustavo Fring, people I know, crew members, they walk by me, they can feel my energy. I'm standing against the wall waiting for them to set their last light, which was unexpected. Patience is a virtue, but I'm ready to go. And they could all feel that. They could all feel this Gustavo energy, like it's all business, let's get to it. And people who passed me didn't even want to catch my eyes, because but that's how I like to work, because I don't have a lot of time within a certain setup or set room setting to drop into the elements of the energy that are in the room. Mm-hmm. So I want to control those elements, because my character is controlling of those elements and in command of his stature and stance within that frame.
Yeah.
He's in command, So the way he does things is very, very important. The order with which he does things, much more specific than you could ever imagine. But there's a thought in my head that's churning, wanting to get out and share with all of you. So I want to be inside of it, but I also want to be available enough on the outer skin of my acting body to allow the audience to relate, to go, and maybe that answers your question, because I want you to have that Stockholm syndrome. I want you to relate and then care, but why do I? I want you to ask those questions about the complicated nature of how I try to put it together and who those characters become for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, formidable and fierce, Moff Gideon is certainly that. Obviously has really struck a chord. You were nominated last year. Some people were surprised by that. I certainly wasn't. I think he's such an interesting, nuanced, and just fantastic character to play. He's deliciously villainous. He pursues Grogu across the galaxy, ends up in a really physical lightsaber battle, and I immediately thought, gee, I wonder what Giancarlo was thinking when he realized that he was going to be doing such a physical kind of scene with it's so iconic with a lightsaber. What were your thoughts on doing that?
Well, it's really funny. It's not one of the first things I thought of, to be really honest with you. And normally I would, maybe 10 years ago as an actor. I love physical work, and I love being able to always thought that I would play into that kind of cutting edge action hero at one point in my career. And now that all that's coming back to me because I'm thinking and have some opportunities on my plate that are allowing me to go, it's still there. Be that kid. Be that badass physically. Certainly Gus does certain things in his existence on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad before him, but Moff Gideon was completely different. To me, the first thing that went through my head was with Moff was to figure out how to move that cape, how to dance with the costume, how to be in this surreal world where many times I'm playing in the room of the volume, the world of a volume of all these LED cameras shooting me in a room that's computer generated mountains and sets and all these things. I'm in a very big, huge fantasy world. Then I need to be grounded. I need to be a grounded presence who knows exactly what he's going for in my character. And because it was all put together so very quickly. I mean, John called me. I said, they wrote a role for me. What is this? Moff Gideon? It's a Moff. And then I'm starting to think about, well, what does that mean? Were there any Moffs in my Star Wars movies when I was around? And started to look up and think about, oh, I understood that they were the magistrate. The magistrate. I understood that they had the mandated power to do what they want. But I then had to start to think about, well, what do you want? So I looked at Peter Cushing, who I thought was elegant and really such a very tactician. You know, he was a great actor who was very smart, elegant, very elegant British delivery. And I just thought, wow, I like that portrayal of a Moff. I get it, turn it off, I don't want to see anymore. I want a guy who's much more forceful than that, who's willing to do all his own dirty work in case he does get armed up. And he, you know, once I knew I was flying a TIE fighter, this guy is a warrior. What you don't know about Moff is that he is a warrior, that is where he comes from, that there is, and even if it never gets written and you know, as an audience never know it, he's related to that Darth Vader character. He's related somehow to the Jedi. He has some skill. He's not quite them, but I wouldn't be surprised if his experience in his upbringing was Jedi experience. And so how does he get the saber? We don't know. How does he know everything about everything? We don't know. Why does he want the kid? We still hasn't explained himself. So for me, he's still a work in progress. And that's what gets me excited. The fact that I would be in a project that has so many ways to go in telling that story. The fact that we've had a chance to tell a few seasons and had a chance to pause a little bit, and Favreau's back at the work table, having finished, you know, Boba Fett, ready to go for some more Mandalorian, really excites me.
It is. He doesn't just talk the talk, okay? He walks the walk, and that's what you're saying, and that's what I love about that character. He's the real deal. Completely switching things up, completely different genre and character in Godfather of Harlem. You play the late Pastor Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Did you find its setting in the tumultuous 1960s a compelling argument for wanting to be in that show alongside that ridiculously great cast?
Well, yeah, there was no way I would not allow myself the pleasure and delight of working on Godfather of Harlem. Not only do you have a formidable cast of characters so well joined together by Chris Brancato, who is just a marvelous writer and showrunner, creator, alongside Forrest Whitaker, who had this idea for many, many years, alongside Mark Juan Smith, who was a cat who proposed this 20 years ago and is one of our creators who people don't know about him, also a great actor. This is an honor because you're getting to work with the best of the best. And the best of the best have good writing and good situation and good scene partners, you get an explosive show. But with this, you get a little extra because it's a show that is about history. And it charts the history of Bumpy Ellsworth Johnson in the tumultuous 60s in Harlem, trying to wrestle back control over drugs and alcohol. But you also see a family man who is concerned about his family's safety and who is concerned about African Americans within his community to a certain extent. So you have that bump up against Adam Clayton Powell Jr., character I play, who is by the letter of the law, a congressman, a Baptist minister at Abyssinian Baptist Church, a ladies' man, a music lover, a guy who lived quite a full life, but lived it within the letter of the law and didn't really want to go on go along with some of Bumpy's propositions to him, and wanted to uncover corruption from the Italians. So Bumpy feels as if there's a connection there. He can use Adam, but Adam has a history that's farly so deep and so wide in regard to his stumping and being one of the first Black African-American civil rights leaders in the United States, and the first Black ever elected to Congress, with 866 bills that have been unsurpassed since his time of service. So it's great to be a part of history too with this show. Couple that with some contemporary Swizz Beatz music, and you got a show that's really off the chart for us to be able to go, oh, is this now, or am I really looking back? And that part of the way it's written is in concert with so many things we're probably hoping and feeling that are happening today that we don't really want to look at, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's an interesting, show to be a part of. And for me, my growth has come from having, in the last 2 years, the ability to be a part of all these different shows. You know what I mean? They've grown me as a human being. To be a part of something that you have to be the grounding force within the scenes you're in and the space you're in, working with masters who are creating a world around you, and sometimes putting you in that world via hologram, sometimes taking you out of that world and allowing you to spar with one of the most proficient stuntmen ever, Lateef, and have this guy give me props and say, take his helmet off and go, hey, I think this guy's trying to kill me. Look, this fight scene, we had, the ability to have an excellent stunt crew, which is one of the awards for their work. And they brought in, somebody who would have probably done fine in the cuts. And being a filmmaker, I understand the importance of doing your own stunts. And so I said, look, I'm comfortable with doing all this. And they had no stunt time. So I'm learning everything with the lightsaber in between, trying to be proficient and careful and learn all the moves. And as the scene was cut, I realized there's a different way a guy who's 50 years old swings that lightsaber than someone who's 30. And my stunt double looked to be about 30, 35. That's different. There's a different physicality about a dude, who has lived a little longer, and there's a different measuring about what I'm going to do from a guy who's lived and inhabited situations in a different way. So I did all of the stunt work, and have the opportunity was like, I was like a kid again. Could help me realize how physical I am, how I drew on my Jiu-Jitsu background, my dance background, my physical prowess, my boxing background, and really, went toe to toe with a guy without killing him or wanting to kill him. And he missed once, I missed once, but we were dancing. And that is an opportunity to look, and it looked real because it looked like a guy who's mature and who knows the moves, is not going to waste the move. So to do all those things in Mandalorian is like a kid playing in the sandbox with a huge, huge stick of cotton candy.
What a dream. I'm so grateful to Gus Fring as a character, because he brought you more exposure to people who maybe hadn't seen you in a while. And now with Moff Gideon and also Clayton Powell Jr., we just seen, and even on The Boys, another great show. You're just all over our screens, and I just want to see more. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure to be here. And thank you to all of your fans who are fans of mine. Just know I'm a fan of yours too, and I appreciate it. And I can't wait to talk to you next.